Chapter 907, The Little Actress. The little girl was indeed a true acting talent. From a young age, she already started appearing on television to help her father make money. But, this was, in essence, very different to acting in a film. Even though Coco was born into a mixed culture family, in reality, she only had her father. Because her mother viewed her father as weak and useless, she ended up leaving him and marrying a rich businessman as her second husband. But, little Coco was very mature. As soon as her father realized that she had acting talent, she decided to help lighten her father's burdens by working. As a result, she was now quite famous within the industry. Tang Ning was, after all, a mother. So, when she heard that Coco Lee was so mature, she couldn't help but sympathize with the little girl. Hence, when they finally met, Tang Ning subconsciously patted her on the head. Tang Ning would perhaps never forget the first time she met the little girl. Her eyes were especially big and clear and she had a certain determination to her. Although I'm thankful that Miss Tang has offered my Coco such a great opportunity, I've read through the synopsis of the film and don't feel like she can handle it. Father Lee patted his daughter on the head. I am her father. I've already lost her mother, so I can't lose her as well. That's why I need to protect my daughter. Coco, what do you think? Do you want to give it a try? Tang Ning looked down and questioned the seated little girl. The little girl had a head of long black hair and an intelligent aura to her. After careful thought, she tilted her head and said to her father, "Daddy, I want to give it a try." "But, what if you get scared?" "Daddy, you're being silly. There are so many people on set." "As long as there are people around, I won't be scared," Coco replied confidently. "Plus, I trust that Andy will protect me." Father Lee actually knew that his daughter was scared, but he was aware that she was trying to help him. Because, in the past, he had been too naive. While running his own business, he was tricked by his friends and ended up with a huge debt. "Fine then. Don't worry, I'll protect her well," Tang Ning said as she handed Father Lee a contract. "You can ask a lawyer to analyze this contract for you." Father Lee had looked through plenty of contracts in the past because of his daughter, so he could tell that Tang Ning was trying her best to take care of them. "No need, I'll sign it." Tang Ning really liked Coco. It was hard not to like her. So, before Father Lee took the little girl away, Tang Ning said sincerely to him, "Mr. Lee, there are a few words that I'd like to say to you." "Please go ahead, Miss Tang." Coco is currently 7 years old, but in the future, she will eventually gain more and more attention. So, you need to toughen up. Otherwise, you won't be able to protect your daughter. "I'm sorry, we investigated your current situation and are aware that you are in debt. We also know that you shouldn't be held liable for this sum of money, so why did you accept the responsibility?" "To be honest, it's because I'm not good at playing tricks," Father Lee replied helplessly. "As soon as someone threatens me with Coco, there's nothing I can do." "It's because of this that Coco tries so hard to toughen up and protect her father," Tang Ning replied. She then turned and looked at Coco. "If you have money, what would you do with it?" "I would hire a bodyguard for Daddy so no one can hurt him ever again. After that, I would hire a lawyer, so I can teach the people that bullied Daddy a lesson." Look, even Coco knows what to do. Of course, these are all external factors. The most important thing is how you can toughen up on the inside. Father Lee thought for a second and appeared like he had been enlightened. A moment later, he quickly thanked Tang Ning and led Coco out. As she watched the father and daughter leave, Tang Ning felt her heart ache. So, after she returned home later that night, she recalled what happened to Mo Ting. After hearing what happened, Mo Ting furrowed his brows and asked, "Are you heartbroken because of them?" Tang Ning knew what Mo Ting was thinking, so she immediately hit him on the chest. "Where has your mind wandered off to?" This is a natural protective response towards the weak. Mo Ting reached out his arm and pulled Tang Ning onto his lap. He understood that even though his wife had been hurt by Han Yufan in the past and appeared cold on the outside, she was still warm-hearted on the inside. Especially after becoming a mother, she had become more sensitive towards human relationships. "You will definitely like this little girl." Mo Ting did not say a word as he focused on his work and coaxed Tang Ning to sleep in his arms. 3 days later, Kiao Sin scheduled for Coco Lee to undertake an audition. Even though the little girl had strong acting skills, President Mo simply said, "Trainable, before he confirmed her role as the female protagonist and the Ant Queen. To be exact, she was a mini-protagonist. Afterwards, Moting sat to the side and read his script. Under normal circumstances, Moting didn't usually allow others to disturb him, but, when Coco saw him, she walked over and asked, "Uncle, can I sit here?" Moting lifted his head and looked at the little girl, but he did not respond. His silence symbolized consent. Coco sat down not too far from Moting as her two little hands pressed against the chair and her eyes peered at the script in Moting's hands. "I heard from the big brothers that Uncle is really good at acting. Can you teach me?" Moting slightly shifted his script to the left so the little girl could see it. He needed practice interacting with little girls. After all, his daughter was on her way. As soon as the staff saw this, they were quite surprised. Barely anyone ever had the guts to directly approach Moting. But little Coco wasn't afraid. A member of staff even snapped a photo. This was a huge contrast from the usual Moting. They were completely shocked. Tangning has good taste. Later on, someone questioned Coco, "Don't you think that Uncle is scary?" The little girl shook her head. "No, I haven't done anything wrong, so there's no reason for Uncle to do anything to me. Right?" This little creature was much too lovable. In an instant, everyone on set felt they couldn't compare to this little 7-year-old. Looking back at the film, now that the main characters changed from lovers to father and daughter, it was actually easier to jump straight into the main plot because they no longer had to create an awkward encounter between the characters. In the end, the film was about a father saving his abducted daughter by entering into an unknown land. Whilst fighting with the kidnappers, someone accidentally woke up a mysterious creature, a giant white ant. The first scene was of the daughter being abducted. Coco was inexperienced with films, so during the first scene, she fell over and scratched off some skin. Chapter 908, Fighting for Custody. As everyone watched the injured little child, their hearts ached. But, Coco did not cry, even though her eyes were already welling up with tears. "Kyo Yi Yi, I'm not hurt. Let's try again." "Ayo, how could Kyo Yi Yi bear to see you try again?" Kiao-san leaned over and picked the little girl up in his arms. Meanwhile, everyone placed their gaze upon Moting, but, he stood around helplessly as he waited for backup to arrive. Soon, Tangning arrived. As soon as she saw that Coco was hurt, she immediately ran over to comfort her. Afterwards, she smiled and offered, "I'll teach you how to do the scene." Tangning could already imagine how badly President Mo would dote on their daughter because he would be completely helpless around her. In the end, even though Tangning couldn't personally act in the film, she did some great demonstrations for Coco. Coco's scenes weren't that dangerous because Moting took on the majority of the action scenes, so, the demonstrations posed no danger for Tangning. They look like a family of 3. Yes, Tangning's daughter will definitely be just as beautiful. One of the members of staff ended up posting the photo they took of Moting with Coco. Originally, they simply wanted to admire the image, but, the photo unexpectedly went viral. After all, the image was so contrasting that it was perfect. WTF, what's this? When did President Mo take this photo? Who's this little girl? She's so cute. They look like a loving father and daughter. It's so contrasting that it pulls at my heartstrings. When was this photo taken? Isn't that Coco Oli? Why is she in a photo with President Mo? Soon, someone brought up Kate's incident and speculated, this may be from the set of Tangning's sci-fi film. Didn't Kate say that the male lead is President Mo? Previously, when I heard that she was filming a sci-fi film, I didn't really put much thought into it. But after seeing this photo, I suddenly feel a bit of anticipation. I love the contrast. President Mo looks like a cool father. Actually, the leaking of this photo didn't end up affecting the Ant Queen. After all, the public were simply speculating and the photo wasn't from the actual shoot. However, the photo did catch the attention of a particular person. Coco Lee's mother. This woman who had run off to marry a rich businessman wasn't someone to be taken lightly. After her husband died, she didn't receive any monetary inheritance as it all went to his children. So all she was left with was a house. Previously, when she saw that Father Lee was deep in debt, she had no intention to look for the father and daughter. But, now that she saw her daughter had connections with Moting, she finally felt it was time to fight for her custody. After all, Coco's appearance fees looked promising and Father Lee was too weak to hold up against her. To create the image of a loving mother, Mother Lee ended up giving her ex-husband a phone call. "Sam, I miss my daughter. I want to see her." Father Lee was a little taken aback. He hadn't seen this woman in 5 years, yet the first thing she said to him was that she wanted to see her daughter. So, he hung up the phone without hesitation. But, in the end Mother Lee directly showed up at his doorstep. "Seriously, after so many years, you're still living in the same place?" The woman complained as soon as she stepped into the home. In the past, she had endured many tough years in this place. So she couldn't imagine that this man still lived here. Had he perhaps spent all the money that Coco made from her jobs? "Why are you here? Do I need a reason to see my daughter?" the woman said as she spread her palms questioningly. "Coco's not at home. You should come back another time." Father Lee began to send her away. "I want to know if Coco is partaking in a film. I heard that she has a good relationship with the richest man in the entertainment industry." "There's no such thing," Father Lee said as he pushed the woman out. He was certain that this woman was here because of greed. So, after he kicked her out, he immediately gave Tang Ning a phone call. "Miss Tang, Coco's mother came looking for me claiming that she wanted to see her daughter. I don't think she has pure intentions. What should I do?" After hearing this, Tang Ning was quite surprised by how quickly the woman acted. She actually went directly to Father Lee's home. "Firstly, the two of you need to move houses. I will arrange for you to stay at a hotel near the studio. But, she's Coco's mother. I have no reason not to let her see her child. Even legally, I have no right," Father Lee said anxiously. "I've been cautious all along because I was afraid she'd try and snatch Coco away from me. If she honestly wanted to be a good mother, I would not be so resistant. But, she's definitely not a good mother." "Mr. Lee, don't panic. We can discuss this in detail when we meet tomorrow." With Tang Ning's help, Father Lee immediately calmed down. However, the woman continued to knock on his door. "Sam Lee, if you don't let me see Coco, I will find lawyers to sue you. You must know that your finances aren't stable at the moment. So, under these circumstances, the judge will definitely give custody to me." This was exactly what Father Lee was worried about. But of course, when Tang Ning first approached the father and daughter, she was already prepared to help them handle their family issues. She wasn't about to let someone ruin an actress with so much potential. Plus, she hated people that abandon their children and only return for benefits. "Leave this disgusting matter for me to handle. In the meantime, you can mentor the little girl." "I feel a little awkward around her," Mo Tang replied honestly. After hearing this response, Tang Ning let out a laugh. "So you're actually aware of that. When you're around little girls, you look completely helpless. At this rate, how badly are you going to dote our daughter once she's born?" "President Mo, you deal with a host of problems every day, yet you can't even handle a little girl?" "It's different. I can carry and teach my own daughter." "Then just treat Coco like your own daughter." Tang Ning smiled as she left. However, she couldn't help but sigh. Producing a film was hard work. She had previously heard about how people had to start afresh. But now that it happened to her, she finally realized how difficult it was to be a producer. But, even if it wasn't for the sake of her own film and she came across a situation like Coco's, she would still offer assistance to the best of her ability. So, she was going to deal with the beach. But of course, Father Lee played an important role. So, Tang Ning decided to meet with him. However, the first thing he did when he saw her was sigh. "I feel like Coco will be taken away from me." Chapter 909, With me around, she won't be able to take her. "With me around, she won't be able to take her," Tang Ning said confidently. "Firstly, your debts have already been cleared and your savings are in the 6 figures. So, there is nothing wrong with your finances. Secondly, she has a history of abandoning Coco. Thirdly, she's actually the one that is facing financial difficulties at the moment." After hearing Tang Ning's words, Father Lee finally calmed down. Whenever he thought about the possibility of Coco leaving his side, he felt like he'd lose all meaning in life. Tang Ning looked at Father Lee. This man was much too kind-hearted. To be exact, He was too soft. It was because of this that he couldn't protect the most important person in his life. Things in life weren't going to sort themselves out if he kept retreating. In reality, Tangning actually had a much more complex plan. But, after seeing Father Lee, she realized he wouldn't be able to do anything. So, she held back her plan and decided to ask Long Ji to execute it instead. However, growing up in a broken family and seeing the disagreement between her parents wasn't good for a child's mental health. So, Tangning could only hope that Coco remained as strong as she was now. Should I take Coco to see her? Why not? You can't stop a mother from seeing her daughter. But, bring a few extra people with you when the time comes, Tangning replied. Okay, I understand, Father Lee nodded. Meanwhile, Coco was on set filming The Ant Queen. As a child actress with no experience, she was extremely hardworking and determined. This made the adults on set feel a little ashamed in comparison. Whenever Tangning wasn't present, Coco loved to follow Motang around. She liked to look at his script and tail him around the set. In fact, her gaze barely left Motang. This was because she felt extremely safe around him. It was normal for Coco to seek protection from Motang. After all, he was the big boss of entertainment. But, the fact that Motang let the little girl follow him around was what made everyone shocked. Coco, lower your hips a little. Seeing the strict expectations from Kiao-sen, Motang couldn't help but warn, be reasonable. Kiao-sen chuckled and replied, don't worry, this child is born for the entertainment industry. It's enough that Tangning cares so much since she's cold on the outside and warm on the inside. But what about you, President Mo? I am training my future daughter-in-law. Kiao-sen's eyes grew wide. Was this true? Weren't the twins only a little over 1? Was Motang looking for a daughter-in-law already? And wasn't she at least 5 years older than them? Of course, Motang was just joking, but Kiao-sen actually took him seriously. Uncle, I heard from Daddy last night that woman wants to take me away from him. As long as you don't want to, no one can force you to do something that you don't want to do, Motang replied. Meanwhile, a couple of days later, a piece of gossip started spreading around the variety industry. The son of a particular station manager lost his left arm because he was caught cheating with another man's girlfriend. It was a much-deserved result. That night, while Zai Hanmu was filming her program, Lin Ki-on headed to the parking lot to fetch her a jacket. But, she happened to overhear someone talking on the phone. Let's see if he tries to provoke me again. The entire nation now knows that I made his show famous and he simply picked up after me. Did he think that I didn't fight back because I was afraid of him? You guys handled this matter beautifully. He simply lost an arm. It's not even enough to cure my hatred yet. After hearing these last few words, Lin Ki-on was stunned. The voice was too familiar. So familiar that she couldn't quite accept it. Afraid that she'd be discovered, Lin Ki-on quickly returned to the studio. But, the man that was on the phone noticed her leaving. Fortunately, he couldn't confirm her identity. As soon as Lin Ki-on returned to Zai Hanmu's side, she quickly removed her black jacket. A moment later, Zhu King returned to the studio and saw Lin Ki-on, but, she did not arouse his suspicions, because Lin Ki-on was now wearing a white shirt. Ki-on, where's my jacket? I thought you went to the parking lot to fetch it for me. As soon as Zhu King heard Zai Hanmu's question, his expression slightly changed. However, Lin Ki-on remained as calm as ever as she replied, I didn't go to the parking lot, I went to ask the stylist for your earrings instead. After hearing this, Zhu King let go of his suspicions and stepped back in front of the cameras. They were filming a new promotional trailer. Lin Ki-on did not make a fuss. While everyone was busy filming, she quietly snuck to the back and made a phone call to Tangning. She couldn't believe that there was actually someone in this world that was so good at disguising themselves. This experience completely ruined Lin Ki-on's impression of Zhu King. It turned out, a person could completely fool everyone with a high EQ and gentle exterior. Afraid that Zai Hanmu couldn't accept the truth, Lin Ki-on decided not to tell her about it for now and instead told Tangning. After Tangning heard what had happened, she immediately told Lin Ki-on, don't let anyone know about this for now. If Zhu King is actually like that, then we need to have a proper plan of attack. Especially for Hanmu, we need to help her withdraw safely. Okay. Lin Ki-on forced herself to calm down, but she was still afraid for her own safety, so she decided to give Lee Jin a phone call. Afterwards, Lin Keon returned to the studio, but, at this time, Zhu King happened to look her way. Lin Keon couldn't avoid his gaze, so she looked directly at him. Why hadn't she noticed that this man was so good at hiding his true self? After filming was completed, Lin Keon went to the parking lot to fetch her car. At this time, Zhu King approached Zai Hanmo and said to her, "Hanmo, I think Lin Keon lied to you. I'm certain she was in the parking lot earlier. She may have heard me talking on the phone." "Why would Lin Keon lie?" "I think she may have misunderstood me. The station manager's son has been causing me a whole heap of trouble, so my friends offered to stick up for me. She may have thought that I did something to him. Since it's a misunderstanding, then just explain yourself to her." Zai Hanmo didn't seem to care. After all, overhearing something incorrectly was a normal occurrence. "If Lin Keon actually misunderstood, can you explain to her on my behalf?" "Don't worry, Zhugi." Zai Hanmo had no idea that this was all a trick. So after she boarded the car, she asked Lin Keon, Keon, Zhugi said he saw you going to the parking lot. Did you actually go there?" Lin Keon did not reply. She could already guess that Zhu King had tried to explain himself to Zai Hanmo, but the content of his explanation would only be known between the two of them. For the sake of her own safety, Lin Keon shook her head. "I honestly didn't go to the parking lot. I went to the makeup room." Zhugi must have confused me for someone else. "Really?" "Really." Lin Keon nodded. "Okay." From that moment onwards, Zai Hanmo simply felt that Lin Keon and Zhu King were a bit weird. Lin Keon suspected Zhu King, but if she had no evidence and tried to point him out, she would simply end up exposing herself. Worst of all, Zai Hanmo would lose her trust in her. Soon, Lee Jin arrived to take Lin Keon home. After listening to Lin Keon recall what happened, he patted her on the back with praise. "You did well." Chapter 910, She didn't like to underestimate her enemies, but I'm worried about Hanmo in my current situation, Lin Keon said. "For some reason, uncovering another person's secret isn't really that great." "When I think about how cold and heartless Zhu King sounded on the phone, I can't help feeling scared." "Don't worry, I'll protect you," Lee Jin comforted. "Since you refuse to move in with me, why don't you move over to my parents' house? My mom really likes you." "What are you talking about?" Lin Keon glared. But, Lee Jin wasn't joking. He was seriously considering this option. After receiving Lin Keon's phone call, Tang Ning had no choice but to re-evaluate Zhu King as a person. Looking at his information, he appeared perfect. He was publicly acknowledged as the best host, he had a high EQ, he was talented and he had practically no flaws. But, no one imagined that he was hiding so much. After returning home, Mo Ting noticed that Tang Ning was looking through Zhu King's information. So, he approached her and asked, "What's wrong?" Tang Ning took some time to explain what Lin Keon had discovered. After hearing everything, Mo Ting fell silent for a few seconds before his gaze darkened. "It's not easy to deal with someone that's so good at acting. Zhu King has a high IQ and EQ and knows how to judge a situation. I'm afraid he even used you for his own gain." Mo Ting was referring to how Tang Ning helped him transfer to an enemy television station, even though Tang Ning actually did it for Zai Hanmo's sake. But, Tang Ning did not view Zhu King lightly. She didn't like to underestimate her enemies. "Ting, if what Lin Keon saw was true and Zhu King has been putting on an act, do you think we should be cautious of him from now on?" "He will definitely fight for Zai Hanmo," Mo Ting replied. Originally, he was going to slowly get close to Zai Hanmo and use her in superstar media to confirm his status. But now that Lin Keon has discovered his secret, he will definitely try to drive a wedge between the two women. If Zai Hanmo trusts him, he would assume that you also trust him. After all, Lin Keon's partner is in the military and military families are strict. As soon as she gets married, she will have to focus on family. So, he probably thinks that a smart person like you would give up on Lin Keon and choose to side with Zai Hanmo. Tang Ning agreed with Mo Ting's analysis. "He's wrong. I'm not giving up on anyone. If he actually plans to play his tricks on superstar media, I won't let him off easily. Let's keep observing." Luckily, Lin Qian reacted fast enough to deny that she knew anything. Tang Ning was currently dealing with Coco's matter. If she had found out any later, the results would have been unimaginable. But, not exposing him didn't mean that nothing would happen. Zhu King was too skilled at hiding his true self. All of a sudden, he had completely ruined his image as a good man. But, was this powerful opponent going to be easy to deal with? That night, Zhu King pretended to worry about his reputation and tried to get information about Lin Qian from Xia Hanmo. He also went to her apartment and invited her out for dinner. Xia Hanmo had always been grateful towards Zhu King, so, all he had to do was make a simple kind gesture and her impression of him would quickly increase. Hanmo, you're honestly very talented. With someone as capable as Lin Qian assisting you, you have unlimited potential. You've actually helped me a lot. Xia Hanmo responded, thank you, Zhugi. It's nothing, you don't need to keep thanking me, Zhugi said before he brought Xia Hanmo to a quiet place for a stroll. I've been to the hospital and visited your brother. I know things weren't easy for you. Silly girl, you've suffered over the years. Xia Hanmo was a little surprised. She never expected that Zhu King would go and visit her brother. Most surprising of all, Zhu King gently leaned in and hugged her when no one was around. Zhugi, Hanmo. Zhu King knew how to play hard to get. He did not take things further, nor did he confess any feelings. He simply triggered Hanmo's beating heart. He even whispered in her ear, although Lin Qian may misunderstand us, I still want to hug you. Zhu King said this because he expected Xia Hanmo to consider the misunderstanding in the parking lot, and not tell Lin Qian about what happened tonight. As expected, Xia Hanmo did not mention a word to Lin Qian, and for her own safety, Lin Qian did not reveal what she knew. However, she hated this feeling. She hated feeling like her and Xia Hanmo were drifting apart. But, to allow Tang Ning to investigate Zhu King, Lin Qian had to wait patiently. Meanwhile, Tang Ning had to quickly settle the matter with Coco so she could focus on Zhu King. So, during Mother Li's meeting with Coco, she instructed Father Li to bring bodyguards and lawyers with him. Of course, Coco did not want to see this mother of hers, so her gaze was filled with hatred. In fact, when Mother Li went to hug her, she ended up bursting into tears. Tang Ning had taught her that if she didn't want this woman to disturb her and her father again, then this was the best thing to do. You're a bad woman. For the sake of money, you abandoned Daddy and I. Yet, you suddenly want to take me back. You aren't human. You simply want to swindle Daddy's money. You're horrible. Mother Li did not expect Coco to give such a big response, attracting the gaze of everyone around them. Coco, Mommy loves you. You only love money. When I was just 2 years old, you abandoned me in the snow. Luckily, Daddy saved me. You aren't human. Just because I have money now, you suddenly want to take me back. I'm going to take you to court and sue you. Regardless of everything else, Coco had to first hold the moral high ground. She had to first let everyone know that this woman abandoned her daughter before she could do anything. The little actress did well as everyone began to point and gossip about Mother Li. How could a mother be like this? She must be crazy. Isn't this the little girl that appeared in a photo with Mo Ting? This woman must have seen that her daughter has money now, so she wants to take control. There's no one else like her. Let's take a photo of her and expose her. All of a sudden, everyone was scolding this ruthless woman. Meanwhile, Coco returned to her father's side and let out a sigh of relief. Soon, some lawyers approached Mother Li and said to her, "We are the legal representatives for Mr. Li and his daughter. Madam, I think we need to have a proper chat. In regards to the custody of Miss Coco Li, we would like you to know that you have absolutely no right. Do you understand?"
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.